One of the biggest traps that we can fall into when we have a mental illness is to believe that we are completely isolated and alone. It certainly feels like that at times, but it's not true. Why are we going to unpack this today? Is because a few of you are going to watch this and you're going to say, "No, Mark, you don't understand. I am alone." What I want to do today is to share with you my experience of that isolation and that feeling alone, to assure you that when it comes down to it, there are people out there that do understand. There are people out there that get you. We're going to talk about that today on STP. Welcome to Shattered the Podcast. STP is the story of my journey from the depths of mental illness to a place where I could live again. Alrighty, g'day. We are going to kick off today and see what happens. We are talking about this thought that you are not alone. Now, I chose this title very, very carefully because I know that many of you, some of you, a few of you will hear that statement and it will come across to you completely untrue. You will hear that and you will have a visceral reaction. Your mind, your body will react saying that that is not true. And I know that because I've been there. When I first got hurt, I was so full of shame and anger that I was weak, that I was less than what I had been. I spent years feeling like I was all alone and that, yes, I had people around me, but that they couldn't really understand what it was that I was going through. And in fact, it led me to hide my mental illness for years. When I was working on radio as a drive time announcer, there were people that would come up to me and would just be, "Oh, Mark, you're so much fun. You're so good. The life is good. You're doing a great job. You were born for this." But they wouldn't see me after a show had finished and I'd gotten home and I crawled up on a ball on the floor, just so exhausted and overwhelmed by the time that I had to spend under the public eye. People didn't see that. And the people that did get a glimpse past that fun on air persona were confused by it. I had a woman come up to me once and she said, "Mike, I got a question and I really want to know the answer." She said, "On air, you're fun, you're exciting, you're exuberant, you deal with people well, you're conversational, you're everything that somebody could hope for in a drive time radio DJ. But," she said, "but you're not like that in real life." It was a comment that sent me for a bit of a tailspin. I had spent so much of my time pretending and building this persona to where people didn't see my mental illness, that it was almost unfathomable for me to realize that people could see through that disguise. Now, the thing of it is it wasn't a lie. It was the best part of me. And I was only able to put that out for a couple of hours a day. And then I was done. And people couldn't understand when they saw me and I wasn't exuberant or effervescent. They would see me and wonder what has changed, not knowing that I had a daily struggle with my mental health. Now, part of the reason that I hid my mental illness is because I thought people wouldn't understand, people wouldn't care, and more than that, that my issues were so minimal that I'd overblown the whole thing. In short, I felt alone. I felt disconnected. I felt like I was something other. I felt like nobody could understand what I'm going through, so I'm better off pretending that it doesn't happen. And I got good at it because when I finally accidentally outed myself as living with a person, being a person that lives with mental illness, it sent shockwaves through my colleagues. And I'm not talking about like shockwaves of horror. It was more like, how could we not know how much this guy was struggling? It was admiration for my ability to keep going. It was surprise because I had so often been there for people in bad and stressful times and given no indication that there was anything even slightly amiss with my mental health. I was stunned when people came to me with these positive reactions. I was expecting the worst. I was expecting to be fired. I thought that's what's going to happen today. The day I accidentally outed myself, that's going to be my last day on radio. And it wasn't. And in fact, I began to speak about it more and I became more open about my struggles. And the more I did, the more people would come up to me and thank me for understanding what it was like to feel that they were the way that they did. Now, you're going to perhaps say, again, Mark, you still had this wonderful job. You still had these people around you. Well, my mental health ended up losing me that job. I had a breakdown and it was seen in very negative ways without any understanding. And I ended up losing the best job I ever had because of my mental illness. And again, I went back to a place where I felt alone. I felt like I had lost everything. I'd lost my income. I'd lost my social group. I'd lost my standing in the community. And I was broken and I was afraid and I was alone. Why do we feel like that? Why do we feel like nobody could possibly understand? My brother lives with PTSD from a war zone. He has never once looked down on me because I suffer the same mental illness as he does. He's never once said, well, Mark, you don't know what it's like to be shot at. I mean, he tells the story of these bullets were flying over his head and he didn't know what they were. He thought they were bees or wasps. And it was bullets. And when he realized it was, everything changed. That didn't happen to me. My PTSD came from very different circumstances, but he's never looked down on me because I understand what he's been through. He and I can sit down and talk about mental illness in a way that I can't do it with anybody else because we've both been there. We've both been at the point where we want to give up, where we want to choose suicide. Whatever your circumstance, you are not alone. Anybody that's been through the struggle of mental illness will tell you that it's tough for everybody and it's hard and it hurts. But it's important to know that you are not alone. For those of you that are going to take this talk in a different way and go, you know what? I don't have anyone to talk to. That might be true. But in the same breath, it's not true. There are services that you can reach out to. There are places, helplines, places that you can call. Don't cost anything. They won't try and fix you. that won't try and minimize your pain, but will just be a voice, somebody that will stand with you and say, I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're going through. It's hard to do. Believe me, I know how hard it is. But I can promise you, you are not alone. This has been a tough one, surprisingly. I do hope you have a great week. Drop us a comment. Remember, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I just have a PTSD in pain. I've a PhD in pain. I've lived it, and I've come through to a point where I'm living again. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for joining us on Shattered the Podcast. I'm Mark. Special thanks to my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also to Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And we can't forget the amazing band Adelaide, who let us use their song as our theme. For more information, check us out on all your socials, STP Shattered the Podcast.